Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel Sparkle English, where I help you improve your English level. My name is Jennifer, and in today's lesson we're going to talk about scare quotes and how they are used in English writing. But first, let's talk about quotes or quotation marks. Right here, these are quotation marks, and they're primarily used to indicate direct speech, or when we talk about titles of works or poem titles, movie titles, etc. For example, Michael said, "It's a beautiful day." "It's a beautiful day" is enclosed with quotation marks because this is Michael's direct speech. He said these words exactly. The Raven is a famous poem by Edgar Allan Poe. Here we put The Raven in quotation marks because it's the title of a famous poem. So this is how we usually use quotation marks. But what are scare quotes? And scare quotes are also known as sneer quotes. Well, scare quotes are quotation marks used to express irony, skepticism, or disagreement. And they indicate that the writer doesn't fully agree with the use of the enclosed phrase, or they find it unusual. Scare quotes are essentially the written form of air quotes. Let's look at some examples. Mr. Smith made a generous donation of $5. Here we have scare quotes around the word generous. Imagine Mr. Smith is a very wealthy man, and his donation was only $5. By putting generous in quotation marks, we are being sarcastic. Of course, $5 is not a very generous donation if you are a wealthy man. So the writer is essentially mocking Mr. Smith's donation by calling him generous when he is, in fact, not generous. Another example. Apparently, it's the best coffee in the world. In the second example, we have scare quotes around best. And this is indicating that the writer is skeptical about the claim that it's the best coffee in the world. It's probably not the best coffee in the world, and it's just marketing. So in both of these examples, the scare quotes indicate that the writer doesn't actually agree or is skeptical of the phrase in between the quotation marks. So let's look at some more examples of regular quotes versus scare quotes. Again, regular quotes are used for direct speech or titles, and scare quotes are not used for direct speech or titles. They're used to express a form of criticism, sarcasm, or skepticism. My mother said, "Roy is an honest man." Here we have a regular quote. Roy is an honest man is direct speech from my mother. Now let's look at this scare quote. Roy is an honest man. If someone wrote the sentence like this and wrote it with quotation marks around honest, they are implying that Roy is not honest. The writer is skeptical that this is true. Here's another example of regular quotes. Did you watch the documentary Life on Mars last night? Here, Life on Mars is in quotation marks because that's the title of the documentary. Now let's look at a scare quote. It was an entertaining documentary. Here, if documentary is in quotes, it's implying that the person who wrote this doesn't believe that it was an actual documentary. Maybe they think it was scripted and not very realistic, so they're doubting the fact that this should be called a documentary. Let's look at some more comparisons. Let's compare these sentences. Beth wore an interesting dress to the party. Beth wore an interesting dress to the party. In the first one, we have a statement. And in the second example, we have interesting in scare quotes. The first statement would imply that she wore an interesting dress. Maybe the dress had a lot of interesting patterns and was quite unique. But in the second example, we have interesting in scare quotes. For example, let's say Beth wore this dress full of strange feathers, and it looked quite bizarre. By putting interesting in quotation marks, I'm implying that by interesting, I really mean her dress was very strange or weird or quite bizarre. So what are some common uses of scare quotes? Scare quotes are often used in informal writing or journalistic contexts to question or mock the enclosed term. They can be seen in political or opinion pieces where the author wants to express sarcasm or criticism. Also, if you are writing an email to your friends or texting, you might use scare quotes. Let's look at an example. Imagine there is a news article. The young actress claims her success is due to hard work, but others believe it is purely due to her connections. So here we have hard work in scare quotes. Now, these quotes can be interpreted in two ways, and this depends on the context. This could be a direct quote if the young actress said, "My success is due to my hard work," but it could also be interpreted as scare quotes because this woman has many connections, so probably her success is not just because of her hard work, but because she knew someone in the industry. So remember to look at the context when trying to determine if it's a regular quote or a scare quote. Now, you must be careful to use scare quotes correctly and also try not to overuse them. Misusing scare quotes can change the tone of your writing and make you seem sarcastic or insincere. So it's important to use them sparingly to avoid confusion or misinterpretation by the reader. For example, we have these two sentences. I love spending time with my friends. If you wrote this sentence with quotation marks around friends, it would imply that these are actually not your friends. So unless you are trying to make a sarcastic or snarky remark, it's important not to use quotation marks in this way. Now it's time for a quiz. You must identify the scare quotes. Some of these sentences contain regular quotes and some contain scare quotes. Number 1. Sarah said she was working from home, but her roommate noticed she was binge watching her favorite series. Number 2. Are you going to work tomorrow? Lauren asked. Number 3. I can't believe he accidentally ate my entire birthday cake. Number 4. The brochure promised a luxurious hotel, but the cheap amenities suggested otherwise. Number 5. Dad said it was a really long day at work. And finally, number 6. When I was at the concert, they played Bohemian Rhapsody, and the crowd went wild. Okay, so let's identify the scare quotes. Number 1, working is in scare quotes because it's implying that even though Sarah says she's working, she's really just watching her favorite TV show. Number 2 uses regular quotes. This is direct speech. Number 3, we have accidentally, and this is in scare quotes. The writer is skeptical that the person who ate their entire birthday cake did so by accident. It was probably not an accident. Number 4, luxurious, is also in scare quotes. And that's because the hotel is not actually luxurious because there are cheap amenities. Number 5 is a regular quotation. This is direct speech. And number 6, there are no scare quotes in this sentence because we use quotation marks to indicate the title of a popular song. So 3 out of the 6 sentences use scare quotes. Okay, so let me know how many you got correct out of 6, and if you would like, you can practice writing a sentence below using scare quotes. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Make sure to check out my full playlist on punctuation by clicking on the link in the description below. I will see you all in my next lesson.